Welcome, everyone. We are talking about friends, colleagues, and relatives, how we can help them at the end of their life, how we can be part of that support network. And of course, Lea Brovedani is here, the Soul Journey Doula. And actually, we've been doing this podcast for a year now. So this is actually the final episode of this series. However, we did a lot of other episodes because Lea is, she comes from a background of emotional intelligence. So anytime I want to swear at somebody, I call her, and she says,
And
now."
we
No, I'm
swear
kidding.
together. Let's get
Yeah. So she says, "Oh, let's have a race," But she works in emotional intelligence, and as you know, she's also known as the trust architect and is an author, a leadership expert, workshop facilitator, travels the world teaching about trust, and being a death doula is all about trust. And this was one of these extended arms of what she does. So we're going to put together a package for everyone to check out all the episodes. So you can still find them all on YouTube. If you go to Big Blend Radio on YouTube, you'll see the podcast channel there. We're going to leave that up there and create a playlist also on blendradioandtv.com. And you can also go to souljourneydoula.com. But through the years, I think we've got just under 20 episodes all about the end of life. So it's time to do something a little different. It's a new year. And I know, Lea, you're going to be out traveling, speaking, on cruise ships and all kinds of things already,
Yeah,
right?
I'm excited about that. I've got a almost 3 week cruise from Rio de Janeiro to Lisbon, Portugal, and I'll be
Wow.
speaking, uh, probably doing about 8 lectures while I'm on board the
Wow.
cruise. Yeah, which is fun.
Wow. That's that's not a bad life,
Yeah,
you know. Did
yeah.
they let you off to have fun in between these lectures?
Absolutely. I'm a passenger during the times I'm not speaking, and the only time I do a presentation is when we're out at sea. So,
Okay.
and honestly, yeah, it is absolutely wonderful. But I also know to keep my ego in check because if it comes, they always have multiple activities when you're speaking. And quite often, if it comes between you and bingo, bingo wins. So you just kind
Well,
of
bingo.
you have the people who are supposed to be in the room are in the room, and if they'd rather go to bingo, you just, that's cool too.
Oh, well, tag your it. Have you ever played bingo?
Yeah, years and years and years ago. Yeah.
Oh, I've never played it, but I don't want bingo wings. That's something as we age, us ladies have to watch out for the bingo wings. I got bingo. Anyway, listen, we always
Yeah.
have humor on this show, even though we're talking about the end of life and death.
Yeah.
We like to look at death and laugh at it. No, but not really. It's about compassion and care, and that's what we're going to talk about. And I think that really does lead to when a good friend is passing and she knows or he knows um, that friends are there to laugh at death's face with them. And people talk about you just be if someone is at their end of their life, you are still allowed to make them laugh.
Absolutely. And you had those memories from years ago when my grandmother was dying, and I was young. Like, I think she died when I was 10 years old. And I remember visiting her. And
Mm.
she mentioned that she was tired of having her friends come and sit at her bedside and cry. She said, "It's not what I want to do right now. I'm comforting them." And she was quite upset with them for not keeping it together. So
Mm.
if you have heard that a person that you know is dying, yes, have tears because love and grief are joined and you
Mm.
don't have one without the other. But then when you're sitting by their side, find out what they want to talk about. They
Mm.
might, what was it that they did that they're still proud about? What is it that they did that they still want to talk about?
Mhm.
And there's this rule, there's a thing called the grief ring. And it's the person at the center of it is allowed to talk about whatever they want, and they get to talk about, so it's kind of dump you can dump in, they can say what they want, but if you are, or they can dump out, excuse me, but if you're the person who's visiting them, you keep that kind of to yourself. So I'm just going to make sure. So comfort in and dump out. So what your role
Mm,
is a role of comfort,
mm,
not to be comforted.
right. You're comforting your friend, your relative, your loved one, your colleague, even we're talking about that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the other thing. We forget, people you work with are friends too, and you care, there's one gentleman who was on our shows since the beginning, and now I'm going to cry talking about him because it's still
Oh,
really
I
it's
remember
hard.
him. Yeah.
So there's two actually at one time, and it was like, what just happened? They both out of the blue passed
Wow.
away. And we're used to, I mean, and I was in email conversations with both, and we were in communication every week, every day on social media, and it was just like, wow. And with our work, we're going through podcasts and you hear their voices, and it's like, once in a while you stumble across them and you just, and I think if I could have talked to each one beforehand and known they were going, it would have been great. But yeah, our colleagues are
Yeah.
part of that. And sometimes people are working even when handling a very difficult, like cancer or something they're going through and still trying to work, trying to keep it quiet. Some people just don't tell people, you
Yeah.
know, they
Yeah.
just go, oops, I didn't want to tell you because of exactly what you said.
And you take the information from the person who is at the
Mm.
center of it. Like I said, you comfort in and they're allowed to dump out so they can say things. But instead of like if they want to cry, then that's okay. You can sit there and um uh,
Yeah,
say things. If they say this sucks, why me? And you can say, yeah, this sucks, why you?
yeah.
So you're going to be with them. The other thing is to be able to laugh if they do it. I have a friend and she's not dying, but she has breast cancer. And so I know her quite well. And one of the things I said, I promise I will be inappropriate all the time with you about the cancer
Yeah.
because I know that's who, like, she wants to laugh. And so what I did is I made buns and then I made little nipples. I
Oh, funny.
brought her two buns
Yeah.
and I said, here's your boobs. And
Yeah.
she cracked up. And that is really healing too. And so I have a picture of her with these two buns that look like boobs, holding them in front of her shirt. Now, that would probably be something I could do with you too,
Yeah.
but not with everybody. So
Yeah.
you have to be able to take your cues from the person who is dying.
Mm,
Some people, I know I've met people who want to be in denial the whole time.
mm.
And it's not your job to force them into admitting that they're dying. You go to where they are
Yeah. I
and
love that. I love
in that
that.
moment.
Yeah, a really good friend of ours, and I think we've talked about her on the show. She lost her sister, and they were really tight, and they're in their, elder stages of their life. And but Sprite, don't mess with my friend. Mm-mm. She's she, she's a hot one, hot wire. But her sister, I mean, they worked together. They were, I think one knew if the other one was going to phone them, like that close. And it was just out of the blue, boom, she's got cancer, brain cancer, terminal, and trying to do medical stuff, but she also had other issues. And so she knew she was going and it wasn't going to happen. It was spreading fast. And they both knew like this is probably the last day, like really. And so they're sat there at my friend's house holding hands and telling stories, just memories, and laughing and crying together, but holding hands and remembering things from when they were kids. To the one, said the F bomb in front of clients at the other one's business, and they had like that was it. No speaking. My friend just said, "That's it. There's because you do not do that." She's funny. She's got a really good sense of humor, but you will, I've had myself and I'm in trouble. In fact, one of the last times I talked to her, I said something I wasn't supposed to say, and she went, "Shame on you," and I went, "Oh, I did the shame on you. I got the shame on you." And then she did giggle, but they had a split up
Yeah.
over the F bomb. But, her sister said it in front of guests, clients, they were in the hospitality. And that was it's a big no no. And so she didn't talk to her for like months. Like that was it. But you would think, oh, that's so bad because when someone's dying, you get upset about it. No, they just thought it was hysterical because that's who they are, and so, but that's how I think it's exactly what you're saying, how that happened. And so everyone was at peace. And she was saying that her sister was at peace. She knew she was at peace because she was there with her sister. They're, the two peas in the pod. And my friend was, and the other one's our friend too, but I'm trying not to give out names, it's private. Was sitting there and she was at peace, obviously upset because she could be there and have those moments. And so the memories for her, now that her sister has passed, it's not doom and gloom. It was this beautiful day of just sitting together and reminiscing and laughing and crying together.
Yeah.
I think that was perfect.
Yeah. And the thing that I talk about, the grief ring, that applies to people who have lost someone who's really close to them as well. So if the person has lost a spouse or a really
Mm.
close relative, then it is the comfort in you as the person who is with your
Mm.
friend who has had someone really close to them, comfort in, and they're allowed to dump out. And I've been guilty of it, and I know friends, when I've gone through a really tough time, they've tried to show their empathy by talking about a sad situation that they've had.
Oh
So,
yeah, that's
your mother, like, especially I remember when my mother had just died, and a friend called and talked the whole time about how she was when her dad died. And I know that she was doing it because she thought she could show that we both experienced this. So she understood how I felt because she had experienced it too. What it felt like to me was I was not being
mm,
comforted. All of a sudden, I had to start comforting her, even though her father had passed a long time ago. I've done it when with people when they've gone through something, not about a death, but about someone has told me something that's been really difficult for them, and then I start talking about, oh, I've had a similar experience.
yeah.
That's not what
Yeah.
people want. When people
Yeah, but
are
that
going
is
through,
about it's about connecting and letting people know
yeah,
you're still with them, but it's yeah, you're right. I think we've all done
I
it. Come
think
on, man.
just about all
We've
of us
all
have
done it.
done
It's
that sometime.
natural.
And
It's
you think
yeah.
that you're comforting them, but you're not. You're actually telling them that, and a lot of times then they have to start saying, oh, yeah, I remember that time. It was really bad.
Yeah,
If you want
that's
to say something, you can say, and don't say, I know exactly how you feel because you're not the same. You can say, this sounds so tough.
mhm.
I've had experiences that have felt the same, but tell me what and then give it back to them. Tell me what
Yeah.
you're going through right now. And then the best thing to do is if you're talking to someone who has just had someone pass, say, tell me about them.
Yeah. I like that. I like
Tell me
that.
a story about them. One of the things we did when my dad died, because my dad was such a character. And so people started coming up and saying, oh my God, I remember when my dad's name was Harry. I remember when Harry, and it was always something you'd go, oh my God, Dad, and it was funny. And
Mm,
we got to laugh and reminisce about him.
that's cool.
And so the same when a person is dying, say, tell me, like when you look back on your life, what's
Mm,
one of the things that still, when you think about it, make you laugh?
mhm. Yeah.
They say nothing. I can't think of anything. Then you know that that's not where they want to go to. You can tell me about a funny story. Tell me something that you're proud of. Tell
Mm,
me a sad memory if they want to get the sad out. Tell me a regret, an
mm,
accomplishment, what you wish you had more time with, a place you'd love to visit, and then you can create that.
mhm. Absolutely. Or just even tell them about the connection between the two people, you know?
Yeah.
Now, with friends, right? Like I have a friend who's on her end journey, and she has a network of friends around her, bringing her food, coming to
Oh,
visit, play music for her. Because the drugs make her wonky, so sometimes she forgets, they're wonky, and then they have to take her computer away because she's going on massive shopping sprees. It's dangerous with these drugs, you know. Yeah, she tried to buy a party plate of fruit because it looked colorful, like for 20 people. She went grocery shopping for
wow.
herself. Yeah. So her friends have all joined hands and gone, okay, this is your shift and that's your shift. But she's from a different country. And so she's got good friends and relatives overseas. And so they have shifts for that. So I wanted to touch on that because it is International Friendship Month in
Yeah.
February. And no matter what the world is doing, everyone's arguing and fighting and carrying on. Forget politics during these kinds of times. You can still connect. We have technology, and so long as you have it in your country, because you never know. Um, but you can connect and still be there even if you can't be there. We found that COVID sucked for people not being able. You know about that. Being able to go over borders and all kinds of stuff. But you can still use technology to connect. You can still be on the phone. You can right those kinds of things. FaceTime, even just an audio call, um, to listen and to make people laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, if you want to comfort somebody, if death doesn't usually happen like that, sometimes it can be very lonely. And
Mm,
this your friend is lucky if she has people around her. But sometimes if you don't know what to do, then ask if they'd like to have a story read to them.
mm,
Like there's
exactly.
things you can do. My mother was dying. I used to, and it was during COVID. I used to sing to her. I'd get the nurses to put the video next to her and I'd ask what song she wanted to sing. I don't think she was completely aware because she died of Alzheimer's, but I think it comforted her and me. So
Mm,
there's things that you can do or tell a
mm,
story, and it would be I would say mom and talk to her about a story that she might remember from years ago. So there's all
okay.
kinds of things. And if you're not sure, the internet can be a gift of information. Ignore all of the negative stuff, but a gift of information on things that you can talk about.
Hmm. You can read a book.
Yeah.
Readings are fantastic ways for people to also escape if they're in pain.
Yeah.
Sometimes depending on what their, end of life is, pain is a huge part of that. And so whatever you can do to take their mind off of that or discomfort, or even just thinking about it's the end of life, because I think I'm going to be one of those people who panic and go, I have more. I mean, if I was to die today, I would go, okay, I've done a ton, I've traveled a ton, I haven't neglected my life whatsoever. I don't
Yeah.
think, you know what I mean? But then, like, if they said, okay, you've got like a week or 2 weeks or the 3 months, we were talking about before, I'd go, holy crap, I got more to do. Like I need to go to Sri Lanka like now. I don't care. Like you know what? I'd probably just, I don't know, I'd freak out because I don't think I'll ever be done. So I hope we come back. I need
Yeah.
I need more time, y'all. So I think it's interesting, and I know some people also, the spiritual side of things, remember we talked about my mom's best friend when she had brain cancer as well, and Nancy would go visit her, and she was really having a rough time, and she's an atheist, and so I know those who are not into atheism may not enjoy this part of this podcast, but um, that's who she was, and she didn't want anybody. She did a priest had a priest there, but didn't want him to go really religious at all, which he did. And the lights flickered. And she says, if you do that, I'm going to turn the lights on and off. And she did. The lights did, she made the lights flicker. And Nancy and I got the giggles in the back. But the of her funeral, but and the funeral that was the one was on 666 was the number on Elm Street. Like, come on, that was crazy. That funeral. Um, I mean, it was funny, and we know she did that as a joke, you know. But if she loved seeing Nancy because she could be herself, and then she had like the society people, like you know what I mean. There's the people who are in your life a lot, but you're not really down and dirty. Let's put it this way. I mean, Nancy and her won a Bloody Mary contest once together. So let's just, there's if you're going to do something like that, you're going down and dirty, and they
Yeah.
knew each other and really, really well, where you can say anything. And so there's the societal types who got up and spoke, and Nancy's going, she really did that? Like, really? Like, what was she, la di da kind of stuff. I can't explain it all, but it's but for her at her end of life to have those people try to push their religion or their, you know what I mean, it wasn't, she needed her
The
friends.
wrong thing to do. Like they weren't
Yeah,
taking their cues from her. Like I said, you should be taking your cues from the person who's dying.
yeah. And
And
she
it
wanted
sounds
Nancy
like
there to
even the
talk
priest
about
did.
wildlife and her adventures in Africa, and to hear more about Nancy, because she went to Africa with Nancy, and also worked with Joy Adamson, and hated Joy Adamson, and kept calling, calling her out, calling her names, and Nancy stayed and kept working there, obviously, and then she came to visit us when we lived in South Africa, but she never, it just wasn't enough for her. She wanted to hear everything, and so she wanted to. Nancy would go and visit her all the time on her last, stages, and she was about a 2.5, 3 hour drive away. But Nancy kept going, and she would talk of whatever she wanted to talk about. She wanted to hear the stories of the wildlife because she loved wildlife, and she wanted to laugh.
Yeah.
And her other friends did exactly what you said, wanted to come and do the, oh my gosh, you're dying. And her head, she couldn't keep her head up, you know, but she'd go like, hey, Nancy, watch this. And her head would fall down, and that would freak everybody else. But they were able to, it's such a tender thing, but be who you were as friends before the time of the end, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely
Yeah.
agree. I'll tell one more story before we
Yeah. Yeah.
the woman who was like a second mom to me, she lived across the street and she used to call me her girl when I was little. I'd sit on her lap, and even when was older and had kids, I still had this real close connection to her. And I found out she was dying, so I hadn't seen her for years, and I went over, and she had said that the cancer had metastasized and had gone to her brain. And I
Mm.
said, I looked at her again, it's my sense of humor, but I knew, and I said, finally, Marilyn, you've got an excuse for saying something inappropriate. You can tell him you've got something wrong with your brain now. And she laughed and said, oh, you're horrible, and laughed because everybody had been like, didn't know what to say to her. And I mean, I
Yeah.
absolutely loved her. And she was someone who used to always get into trouble because she would say the most inappropriate things. And so I said it knowing that the way I said it, she would laugh.
Yeah. Because it's still with care. And
Yeah.
it's an inside joke kind of thing. It's yeah, it's caring and it's silly and it's funny, but and it elevates that. I remember, and I think we've talked about this on a show too. A friend of ours who's come on shows, her wife had a brain tumor, and it was something she first found out. And she was going through all these things, and then the doctor said, "This is what it is. Now you're gonna have to do all this chemo. That you can like immediately. You're going in, and this is what's going to happen." So they went out to dinner, and she just started picking out on everything. She's like, before they make me have chemo and not want to eat or anything, she's like, give me this, give me that, give me that. I'll have another bottle of wine. Of course, she couldn't
Yeah.
eat it all, but she's like, just in case, just in case. And then she sat at the table in restaurants and swore like she's never sworn before. and 8. Her wife was losing it, right? And then they set up a special Facebook group just for friends to post things for while she was going through this recovery and chemo, and just to post humor and beauty and anything loving that will keep her spirits up. And so every day I sent her photos of where we were, or I've done that with people in the hospital. If they're in the hospital, we pet sit as we travel. I send them dog photos all the time,
Yeah.
and cat photos, and whatever you can do to show you're caring, but make them feel like, hey, there's a beautiful place in the world, and you're a part of it. And so that's what we all did. We would send really funny things, really beautiful things, flower photos, all kinds of stuff, poetry, you know. So, and then one day, I'm trying to keep everyone's private, you know, her wife goes in, and well, she came on and she goes, "Hey, everybody, enough of this crap. I'm done with it. I'm back to my raunchy old self. I'm healed. I'm fine. Thank you so much and good night." And she's fine. She's happy. But it
Wow.
really helped her, it really helped. So just there's so many things, and you just need to know your friend or your
Yeah.
colleague, relative. What do they like? I mean, a Facebook group that's dedicated to you, that's private, you know, that could be really
Yeah.
sweet, or something else other than Facebook, depending on who you are or what you want to do.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't, because I had a business page and a doula page and a personal page. And I found that with everything that was going on, I just got off of Facebook. I'm not on social media very much. I can still be found if people
On
want.
LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah, LinkedIn or Blue Sky. So
Okay.
Libro, I think it's Leabrov one dot bsky.com. So it's the Blue Sky account. So
Oh,
I
you
can
just type in Lea
contact you there.
Brovedani, you come up in the
Yeah,
search.
yeah. So there's a
No.
few ways of getting in touch with me. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however, I was finding someone said you can block all of that. Well, you know what? With my personality, I would read it because I read everything. I read the backs of cereal boxes. Like that's always been my way. So if it's there, I'll probably read it. And I went, oh, this is making me crazy. So I'm off a lot of
Yeah.
social media, but you can still find me.
That's awesome. And everyone, you can go to LeaBrovedani.com. You can go to souljourneydoula.com. That is there. And Lee is still a death doula. So, especially, I know you're making a move up to Nova Scotia permanently. And
Yes.
so, in Nova Scotia, then if you're dying, call Lee. That sounds terrible, but it's true. It's true. Especially if you want someone to add some humor and some sunshine to your life, call Lee, specifically for Nova Scotia. And then thetrustarchitect.biz is for Lee's books, her trust books. She's got 2 main books out, and she's got some other books she's part of, and learn more about her workshops and speaking. And we'll be back talking trust next month, every third Thursday. Lee's, is always, you've owned third Thursdays forever.
Um, I love it.
I know. So she's going to be on, you'll mostly hear her on our Success Express business show, which is, you can also just go to bigblendradio.com. So you will always hear Lee on Big Blend Radio. And we've still got our page for the doula, Soul Journey Doula, up on blendradioandtv.com. But if you just go to the blend, you'll find, just type in Lee, Lea. So thank you so much, Lee. This whole series has been fantastic, but I know we'll probably do another one here or there, just to keep it out there in the
Yeah.
world, because the world of the end of life planning is a big part of life. And
Yeah.
I think one of the, it's all connected with trust, but I really really love the 90-day program of people sitting and taking a look. If you had
Yeah.
90 days left, what are you going to do? And do that at any age, to start making sure you're living your best life,
Yeah.
no matter
And
when it
one
is.
last thing, and then before we go,
Yes.
you know this. So this to me is in honor of my old dog who lived for 14 and a half years, and we had to say goodbye to him on Saturday. And grief isn't just about the people who have passed in your life. For those who are animal lovers, if you've had that constant companion, that the grief that you feel for your pet passing is as great as the grief that you feel for someone that you love. that walks on two
Mm.
legs. So I'd like to dedicate this one to Booker.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for being here for the show today. Nancy and I are going, I don't know if she's going to want to record, but she's
Yeah.
here. Thank you so much, Lee. You take care, and we'll see you
Thank
on the
you.
flip side.
Okay, thanks, Lisa.